Hello and welcome back to the channel. In this video we are going to break down a real Jeppesen chart step by step using an ILS runway 25 right approach into Brussels airport. By the end of this video you will know how to brief an ILS approach just like a real world pilot. If you ever opened a Jeppesen chart and thought, where do I start? You are not alone. At first sight, a Jeppesen chart looks like a page full of strange numbers, symbols and complicated procedures. But once you know what each section means, you can quickly extract everything you need to fly an instrument approach safely and confidently. You can find Jeppesen charts in Navigraph, but if you don't have a Navigraph subscription, you can find them on the ChartFox website, but you will need a free VATSIM account to log in and use these charts. You can also use the AirMate website to find airport charts. AirMate is also free to use and has a nice collection of charts for airports all over the world. They use official government charts for each country, so they are not standard like Jeppesen charts are, but if you can get past that, it's a free option to get your charts. Microsoft Flight Simulator includes an EFB, but it does not include full Jeppesen charts. You can view flight plans, access airport information and use integrated planning tools, but for detailed IFR procedures, most pilots still use Navigraph alongside the EFB. Okay, that being said, let's get started. At the top of the chart is the title block where we can see that this is the ILS or Localizer Runway 25 right approach into Brussels National Airport. This immediately tells us two things. First, the primary approach is an ILS, meaning we have both lateral and vertical guidance. Second, if the glide slope fails, we can still fly the Localizer only version of the approach. Below is the briefing strip. This is one of the most important areas on the entire chart because it contains the key information you will need during the approach. The Localizer identifier is IBR, the frequency is 108.9 and the final approach course is 243 degrees. This means we will tune 108.9 into our navigation radio and set the course selector to 243 degrees. The chart also tells us that B25RF is the final approach fix, which we have to cross at 2000 feet. We can also see the decision altitude or DA, which is 302 feet above mean sea level, giving us a decision height of 200 feet above the runway. This is the altitude where we will either continue to land if we have the runway in sight or execute a missed approach. The missed approach is next. Many pilots brief the missed approach before anything else because if something goes wrong, you need to know exactly what to do without searching for the information. The missed approach procedure tells us to climb on track 243 degrees. At 700 feet, turn right to heading 104 degrees, continue climbing to 3000 feet and then follow ATC instructions. This is a relatively simple missed approach and is easy to visualize before starting the procedure. Now let's move down to the plan view. The plan view is the top-down view of the approach. Think of it as a map showing where the aircraft will fly. On the right side of the plan we can see UVT. This is both the initial approach fix and intermediate fix for this procedure. UVT is located 11.1 nautical miles from the Localizer and must be crossed at 2000 feet. Following the approach path toward the airport, we reach B25RF, which is 6 nautical miles from the Localizer. This is where we intercept the glide slope and begin our descent. Notice that the entire final approach path is aligned with the 243 degree inbound course. This is the course that we will follow all the way to the runway. The black line is the runway and the runway elevation is 102 feet. Here is the missed approach point information and these boxes contain the available lights at the runway. In this case we have PAPI lights and the HIALS or High Intensity Approach Lighting System. This precision tool is designed to help pilots fly through low visibility, bad weather and darkness ensuring their aircraft aligns accurately with the runway and lands safely. The PAPI lights are the two red and white lights at the beginning of the runway threshold. This box represents the missed approach information. Below the plan view is the profile view. This is the side view of the approach, showing the altitude and descent information. The numbers in the gray zone are the distances between the waypoints in nautical miles. At UVT, we need to follow course 243 and start our descent to 2000 feet. At B25RF, we see the Maltese cross announcing the final approach fix, or FAF. Here we need to be at 2000 feet maximum to capture the glide slope and begin descending along the standard 3-degree glide path. The chart also shows several altitude checkpoints. At the outer marker, spelled OM, located 1 point DME from the localizer, we should be at approximately 1410 feet. Near the middle marker, we need to be around 360 feet. These altitudes will help verify that we are correctly tracking the glide slope. If we are above or below these values, something isn't right and we should go around. The altitude and distance table provides another way to verify your descent profile. At 5 DME, you should be around 1700 feet, at 4 DME around 1380 feet, at 3 DME approximately 1060 feet, and at 2 DME 740 feet. Most pilots use these values as a backup if the glide slope becomes unreliable. Here in this box you can see how many feet per minute you need to descend depending on your ground speed to maintain the 3-degree glide slope path. At the bottom of the chart is the minimums box. For the ILS approach, the decision altitude is 302 feet. The required runway visual range is 800 meters for most aircraft categories. If we lose the glide slope and must fly the localizer only approach, the minimum altitude increases to 490 feet. Without vertical guidance, we need a higher minimum altitude for safety. Now let's look at some important notes. The chart tells us that DME is required. It means we need distance information from the localizer to identify fixes and monitor our progress. It also tells us that RNAV1 capability is required for the published missed approach and holding procedures. Finally, circling is prohibited, which means we cannot descend on this approach and then maneuver visually to another runway. A typical pilot approach briefing would sound like this. Brussels ILS runway 25 right, localizer IBR 108.9, inbound course 243 degrees, final approach fix B25RF at 2000 feet, decision altitude 302 feet, missed approach is climb straight ahead on 243, then at 700 feet turn right heading 014 and climb to 3000 feet. DME required, RNAV1 required for the missed approach. Runway elevation 102 feet, HIALS and PAPI available. And that's it. In less than a minute we have reviewed everything needed to fly the approach safely. Jeppesen charts may look intimidating at first, but once you understand the briefing strip, the plan view, the profile view, the missed approach and minimums section, every chart starts to follow the same logic. The more approaches you study and fly, the faster you will become at extracting the important information. If you like this video, please leave a like and don't forget to subscribe to the channel to get all my latest videos first. Thanks again for watching and I'll see you in the next one.